What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with RK Outpost, and today we have a Star Wars actor speaking out against people who would criticize Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. He's pissed at some of the reaction to this movie. Now, Greg Grunberg plays Snap Wexley, the highly, incredibly critical role of Snap Wexley in the sequel trilogy. At least, maybe it's important in his own mind. Now, if you don't know who Greg Grunberg is, he's one of the many people that are JJ Abrams' guys. People like him, Dominic Monaghan, Kerry Russell even. People that seem to just get put on movies or projects with JJ Abrams, regardless of whether they really should be or deserve to be or have any point in being there. Sometimes characters are just created specifically for those actors to be a part of whatever JJ Abrams is doing, because that's just how JJ Abrams runs things. So let's go ahead and take a look at this article. Obviously, the headline is about the director's cut, the rumored hashtag JJ cut of Rise of Skywalker, but he says something more interesting. So we'll go through it and we'll get to the meaty parts that we want to get to. In a wide-ranging interview, the childhood friend of JJ Abrams also disputes the idea that their film is a rebuke of Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi and takes on complaints about the film. I was so pissed off and angry about one specific criticism I heard. And he talks a little bit about how they've been friends for so long. Frequent collaborators have been a constant since the silent film era, as filmmakers join forces with an actor due to their talent, friendship, or for good luck. Now, look at who they compare this to, whether it's Christopher Nolan and Michael Caine, Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro, or Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell. These are just a few of the many partnerships that make up film history. Well, Greg Grunberg and JJ Abrams, I don't think quite rise to the level of someone like a Martin Scorsese and a Robert De Niro. Don't you think that's a little bit different? I don't think it's quite at the same level, but what do I know? What do I know? What Gunberg and Abrams have that most collaborations do not is a friendship that's lasted since they were in kindergarten. What naturally, Gunberg is quite protective of his friend in his creative endeavors, including the criticism lobbed at Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker. And there's a quote here, we're going to get to it later when we actually get down to it. This is when he's upset about the criticisms of Rise of Skywalker. And he gets asked this question here. When JJ announced he was returning to close out the sequel trilogy, I'm sure you didn't doubt that you'd return, but how soon did he get word that Snap would be back in the X-Wing cockpit? And he talks about how when JJ Abrams got the news about Force Awakens, he immediately told him that he was going to have a role for him because they're just buddies. He needed to create a character just for Greg Grunberg. And then when he got news that he was going to do Rise of Skywalker, he immediately said, don't worry, buddy, Snap's back. Your character, Snap Wexley, it's so known and beloved by so many people. You know, everybody screamed out in pain when Snap Wexley died during Rise of Skywalker because he's such an important character. He's back, Greg. Don't worry, I'm bringing him back so you can be a part of this movie and get a paycheck too. Thanks, JJ, said Greg. That's paraphrasing. That's paraphrasing. Then he talks about here, when he found out that Snap Wexley was going to die, he had this big argument. He didn't want his character to die. He didn't think that his character should die. And it's just honestly laughable reading through all of this. It's insane that he thinks that his character is worth saving. Nobody cares about this character unless possibly you're one of the 10 people that do read Disney Star Wars canon novels. There is some background about Snap Wexley in those. Maybe then you could care about Snap Wexley, but the general moviegoer probably didn't even understand who he was. He had such little screen time in The Force Awakens. He wasn't in The Last Jedi at all. Creative decision by Rian Johnson and Kathleen Kennedy to not have those X-Wing pilots in there. And he gets killed off in Rise of Skywalker. And what's supposed to be some emotional moment, have Poe screaming, no! But it doesn't matter because no one cares about his character. Here's where JJ comes to him and says, all right, I have an idea. I just want to run it by you so you know we're thinking about this. We're thinking about Snap dying. We need a moment like that to take the audience down. He said, JJ says, this is Greg's mind, this is what he thinks. He said, we're thinking about Snap dying, all this stuff. Everybody loves you and your character so much. It would be a great moment. And I said, will it be earned? He said, yeah, I'm going to give you some decent moments. And I think he did, especially one scene where I got to act with Carrie again. That moment gets a decent laugh, and it's a warm moment. I also just love working with Kelly, Marie Tran, obviously. And then he argues. He says, I don't know, man. I don't want to die. No one really dies in these movies. Now, that is a fact. No one does die in these movies because Disney has made it so death is meaningless in Star Wars. Let somebody else die. He's begging with JJ Abrams not to let his stupid character die. And he even refused to say the lines. The second unit director told JJ Abrams that he refused to say the lines that he was going down. Finally, JJ had to pull him aside and convince him to actually do it. Since, JJ is the one that actually got him the part, he kind of has to listen to whatever he's going to say, to be quite honest. Now, this part right here is the part that we all want to hear about. Star Wars means something very different to each and every fan. As a result, mileage tends to vary with each new film. With Episode 9, a lot of people loved it, and a lot of people did not. Despite those Rotten Tomatoes scores, I have a hard time finding this lot of people that loved it. Just saying. While I never fault anyone who dislikes a movie for those valid reasons, I do take issue when people make assumptions such as this person was phoning it in, or this person was pandering to a certain fan base. With that in mind, is there an example that comes to mind of when Episode 9 where you witness JJ toiling away more than usual in order to satisfy everyone? Oh, I don't think there's a moment where he doesn't do that. JJ is the biggest fan, and he appreciates all of that. Just like he was a great big Star Trek fan, and what he did to that franchise, right? Can't wait till he goes to Warner Brothers to F up DC even more. You see that at the end of the movie, especially when he's got all of those great callbacks. When we were working on The Force Awakens, we were never not slack-jawed. We were constantly in awe of what we were and what we were able to do. I would say to him, what is going on? We made movies when we were 12 together. We talked about Star Wars all the time when we were 12. The secret name of The Force Awakens was Avco, which is the theater where the original Star Wars opened in Westwood. He has such a deep appreciation, more than anyone I know, and he was so careful to satisfy that. Now listen to what of course he's defending his buddy. The buddy who gets him every job, who keeps his career alive. That's who he's talking about. When the movie came out, I was so pissed off and angry about one specific criticism that I heard. It said, oh, he's just pandering to the fans. It's like, what are you talking about? A movie like this is all about satisfying the fans. Now, I will say, there's nothing wrong with trying to satisfy fans in any way, shape, or form. This is for the fans, there's no doubt. But you can clearly see one of the biggest problems with The Rise of Skywalker is that every segment of fandom is not satisfied. Whether you're someone that's maybe like the fandom menace side of things, whether you're someone that likes The Last Jedi, whether you're a Reylo, all of these people all had big problems with this film because he tried to pander to every single person, but it didn't make sense in this movie. They had no creative vision for this movie, and it's an absolute mess, and the story doesn't make sense. So Greg Gunberg was really pissed off that people were upset about this. And JJ does it in an emotional way as the characters are connected. There's almost no fat in this movie at all, and that cannot be said for others. That's true because it's about 3 stories crammed into one, and it's so fast that you don't have any time to care about anything. There are moments when you go, oh, you could lose that scene in the movie, it'd still hold up. Everything in this movie matters. And they did such an incredible job of wrapping up and servicing all of the characters. Listen to, he's serious, I guess. Maybe he's just defending JJ, or maybe he actually believes this. It's insane if he thinks that all these characters wrapped up and all these characters were done a good service to. That's ridiculous to think that. Would I have liked to see more Rose? Yeah. Would I have liked to see more other characters? For sure. But you can only do so much, and things change in the edit. They talked about the Kelly Marie Tran stuff, that a lot of stuff got cut out. He talks about how he's upset that some of his own stuff got cut out, which is understandable. If you're in a movie, I'd imagine you would want to see yourself as much as possible. But that was really one criticism that really kind of offended me. Like you said, you can't please everybody all the time, especially when it comes to something that is so important to so many people. Yes, you cannot please everyone. There's no doubt. I do think you should try to please the most amount of people as possible, but the problem is when you make the movie based on pandering, we get what happened. We get exactly what happened with The Rise of Skywalker. We get a movie where you've lost half of your viewing audience. The Last Jedi was one of the most divisive, probably the most divisive thing to happen in entertainment in the past couple years. And this movie made that much less than The Last Jedi. $300 million less than The Last Jedi. Because you didn't please anyone, even though you tried to do it. So you can say that all you want, but you have to actually be successful at pleasing fans for it to actually matter, Greg Gunberg. And your buddy, JJ Abrams, the one who gets you all these jobs, just didn't do it. And it's plain as day for everyone to see with the results that we have in the box office. And then he says, I didn't think any of that criticism was warranted. I personally cannot see a better version of Episode 9 than what JJ put out. I mean, not as his friend, oh, of course not, but as a true fan. It was so incredibly satisfying and so beautiful. There are some well-shot scenes, I'll say that. It's good cinematography. It's a JJ Abrams movie. It always looks nice. There are moments that I've never seen before, especially the battle at the end. Yeah, when we just throw in thousands of Star Destroyers and then thousands of other ships to just fight in a nonsensical battle that doesn't make any sense. How did they get there? How did they gather all these people together? None of it makes sense, but it all looks beautiful. So just eat it up. Right, Greg? I've never seen this stuff so big. He brought it to another level emotionally. I love the movie so much. And that is J.J. Abrams' best friend, Greg Grunberg, the one who keeps food on his table. That's what he's talking about. And he does go on in this interview to talk a little bit about the fact that he doesn't think there's any JJ cut. He just thinks that's basically fake news, that Dominic Monaghan was kind of off base a little bit when he talked about that. That is not super important news to me. I mostly wanted to cover the idea that he thought his character was so important just because he's buddies with JJ and gets a part in a Star Wars movie, and how he vigorously defends him, and how people should not be criticizing the fact that he just tried to pander to every single fan base instead of focusing on actually creating a story that makes sense instead of just MacGuffin after MacGuffin and storylines that are nonsensical. But that's just me. Maybe I'm completely off base. Maybe Greg Grunberg is right. And J.J. Abrams just did an incredible job with Episode 9, despite the box office, despite what we've seen people's reaction be, despite the disinterest in the sequel trilogy era, despite the fact that no Star Wars actors that were involved in this want anything to do with Star Wars ever again, except people like Greg Grunberg, who the only way they can get work is from J.J. Abrams. Maybe I'm wrong. I want to know you guys' thoughts about this in the comments below. Make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.